And the legend of the Ren was way hardcore.
That was recording, right?
Yeah.
We have to keep that in because if you guys are looking for a movie that's an all-time classic, School of Rock is it.
We turned it on randomly.
Know it was it
yeah.
until last night.
Yeah, we turned it on randomly yesterday and we're like, oh, this has been missing.
Yes, like
we've
Jack
been missing
Black's
this
energy is the energy that I need in my life. It's like you're kind of Jack Black vibe sometimes.
Also, if you don't know what Tenacious D is, just look it up.
Oh my gosh, you're in for a treat.
I wish that everyone could have been there last night in the car with us two and my boyfriend. He can sing Jack Black like Jack Black. Like, were you picking up on that? I thought.
Well, so I was gonna save this as a surprise, but there was like this one part where he was singing and I recorded it.
You're kidding.
Like, this is iconic, and I was just gonna send it to you like on a random day, like a month from now. It's fucking.
He
good.
Was nailing it.
He was. I was like, this fucker practices this all the time.
Well, I didn't know he was so gifted in this way. I was like,
I
oh
did
shit,
not know either.
You can actually kind of sing.
Like, is Jack Black in the car with us?
He's gonna die if he hears this.
Him, you know?
yeah.
Oh man.
But anyways, how are things going, Mad? You doing good?
You know, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
We're figuring things out day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good.
How about you?
Yeah. You know, maybe this isn't for everybody, but this is typically how my week goes. I get so busy, and I don't glamorize busy. It just truly is that. Like, I just feel like I have so much going on that I don't actually take time to think about how I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just like moving on from task to task.
Yes, I understand that. I think that is not even in a bad way, but just being with you is like your MO, kind of.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, I'm just saying.
No, I'm not thinking that you're saying it in a bad way, but the reason I hesitated in response was because I don't necessarily want that to be my MO. Like, I don't want to be known as the person who just like jumps from thing to thing and doesn't check in with themselves, you know?
Yeah, I do know that.
Like, that could be improved on my end. That's something I want to improve.
True. And I think that you are improving on that. I don't think it's like very black and white. Like, you are that person that never checks in. It's just like typically that is your mode.
Yeah. The doer.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, other than that, doing good. I'm feeling
all the things.
Doing all the other than doing everything. All
trying to have it all.
No.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. No, we're good. And we got this message on our Instagram, which, by the way, we love when you guys message us.
I know. And it not only gives us podcast ideas, which are incredible, but the fact that we know at least we're helping this one person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then when people tell us that that the episode helped them, I will
cry. Yeah. If we get like
cry.
a DM or a text from someone saying like, I listened and I really loved it this week. It's what I needed to hear.
Oh my God. Like, it couldn't get any better. I'm like, this is why I live life.
Well, I think that's the motive behind our whole podcast. Like, if you guys have been listening for a long time, you know, like, I mean, making money would be cool. Having a huge community would be cool. But really, it's about community. It's about the connection. So anytime it feels like we're hitting the mark, it feels like a big win and it motivates us to keep going.
It really does. And especially when we have those episodes where we're just like rambling and we're like, did that even do anything?
I think I was actually quite insecure about last week's episode
we were.
when we put it out.
We were like, I do remember that. I was like, this is not it. Like, what were we even saying?
I was like, I regret.
Yeah,
maybe
there was no direction.
Well, I honestly, how about this, guys? I started thinking a few days ago, I was like, maybe I need to tell Madison that I just need to take a couple weeks off.
Because you're not in it?
Well, no, not that my heart's not in it, but more so like my mind doesn't sometimes feel in it. Like, it's not that I don't want it or that I'm not crazy passionate about it, but it's more so like life just kind of comes your way and things are kind of, I don't want to say forced to be a bigger priority than this, but like in a sense, some things in my mind do seem to take higher priority than this, you know? And I'm like, well, I should really just focus on like all these other circumstances that I have to kind of navigate through, and this is just like an addition. And maybe what I need is to not force myself to have these types of conversations, but instead just take some time. But that's not true because every time we podcast, I always feel better. And we connect with people who are going through similar situations, and then it makes me feel better. So
Yeah, I get
I
that.
don't think the answer right now is to take a moment.
Yeah. And I appreciate you like reflecting on that versus being like reactionary and having that conversation, you know?
Yeah. I was like, don't say anything yet, Tess. Like wait, see if you can sort it out. And then, if that comes about, then you say what you need to say. But yeah, I'm glad I saw it through. That's not always the case, right? Sometimes you think I should say something and then you don't say something and you regret it. You're like, I should,
Yeah.
yeah, this is confirmation. I should have said something. But in terms of today, I'm feeling much better than I was these past few days. And I'm feeling more than happy to be here.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good.
But anyways, this message, Matt, do you want to give a little gateway into like what we received?
Okay, so someone messaged us saying that basically they were trying to live a more meaningful life and like go in a direction that they believe in. And they were getting a lot of criticism for that from like their peers or whoever it was. And so they were wondering like how do they continue on without letting that criticism affect them?
It's
And
important.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think on some level, all of us sort of deal with that. And so we were thinking that like our solution, if we're looking for one, is like, how do you cultivate more self belief?
Yeah, because it seems like at the end of the day, that's what is going to carry you through.
Yeah. If you don't have a lot of people in your corner, I feel that it will help you, because you need like someone cheering you on, whether that's yourself or like your dad.
Yeah, but I will say, like, okay, the self belief, yeah, we'll go off on that in a second. But I also want to touch on the fact that even one person can be your support system, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you think, oh, support system, you think of a whole list of people that you think should be there rooting for you and, encouraging you to pursue this passion or whatever your life looks like. But you can find that in a smaller group, even down to one person.
Totally.
And so I think sometimes we can get in our own ways of believing that, oh, well, it should be this person, that person, and the other. But realistically, if you do have one or two people that you really can deepen that connection with and rely on, then you'll be okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Because for me, sometimes I just need a voice on the other end of the line to reassure me.
Yeah, and I had wrote that down like that, like finding a modality that'll like help you with cultivating belief in self or like feeling supported. And one of mine was therapy.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we don't, but we were talking about this the other day and we're like, would therapy benefit us?
Well, I mean, the answer is obviously
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, maybe.
Well, why not? I
I
mean,
don't know. You never know until you try.
Yeah, but I've never gone to therapy myself, for the record, but anybody who I've ever talked to who has gone to therapy has had nothing but rave reviews, even if it took a second to find their therapist that they enjoyed talking to or relate to. The response is almost always, yes, I go weekly. Yes, it's important to me. No, I don't want to miss it. And I've like come a long way.
Yeah.
People who I really respect in my life and I think have made it through some horrific shit have owed that to their therapist. And so I don't know, it just makes me almost want to try it more because I'm like, well, these people that I love so much and are so wise come out of therapy, and the people that I feel like are more reactive and more like task by task like I am are not going to therapy.
Yeah.
And it just makes me kind of reflect of like, well, how do could I be better at navigating my just normal day to day if I was working with someone who was very qualified and gave me the right tools? Because I think it's less about just airing my shit out, because we all have shit, right? So it's less of me finding someone to confide in. It's more of like, give me the tools. Because you think you know what's good for you, and a lot of times you do, but sometimes you just need that like encouragement, that push in the direction.
Yeah, and then it's also like it's like when you meet a new person and like you learn something from everyone you meet, and I think that there is a lot of value, and not only because they're educated, but just like from their inner knowledge or experience, they could offer something new to you. Because it's like Tess and I talk to each other all the time, obviously. And we were talking about therapy because we were just like, we are like kind of on the same level, like dealing with different circumstances, but like pretty much on the same level. So then when we're talking to each other, sometimes we're just like, well,
Like you
we
hit a
don't have
dead
anything
end.
else, yeah, to say maybe. But then we kind of do because we're coming from our own experience, but like in a sense also no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Because it ends
that's,
in yes.
yeah,
You're just like,
exactly.
yeah, okay, well, I love you. Let's give a hug.
Yeah, we kind of, right. Which is, yeah, very helpful too. But I wrote that down. It's like having, if you can't afford a therapist or whatever the reason is to not go to therapy, then I wrote down like finding something that works for you where you can have at least like a conversation with yourself, or like bridge the gap of like starting to have a conversation with yourself where you're like, what do I need right now that'll help me be proud of me and like believe in myself? And
It's a
obviously, if
great
you
question to
listen,
ask yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And when I was writing down notes for this podcast, is obviously for me, one is journaling, and I like to journal in the morning, and then also walking. And I like to walk recently in a neighborhood, not only because it's safe, but also because I like to look at things that I like aspire to have. And
Okay.
I think like that puts me in a really good mood, which makes me want to have a conversation with myself and further my journey to whatever I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think. I mean, the reason I hesitate of responding with these answers is because I feel like we are preaching to the same choir over and over again. Everyone's like, we get it, you walk and this and that. But there's a good chance we have a lot of new listeners because we've broadened our network quite a bit. So I'll say that getting out in nature and walking is like my number one, because sometimes I feel like I don't even, I mean, I talk a lot like to my close people about what's going on in my life, but sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to give the details, or I don't want to hash it out any further. And I just need to make myself feel better by going outside. Like
Right.
talking about it right now is not going to help me. I just need to go outside.
Yeah, I understand that because sometimes even when I'm confiding in someone, there's like so many things you don't say, or at least for me, there's a lot of things I don't say because I genuinely, which we've talked about this, is that I genuinely feel bad. I'm like, they honestly don't want to hear this. Like, I'm not trying to have a pity party.
Or, okay, like even let's layer onto that. Like, I don't want to say certain things because I don't want that person to feel bad, right? And not even like, oh, they've done something wrong, but that they can't, that their presence doesn't necessarily help the situation. You know, like, can't you imagine that of like, oh, I've been feeling this way, but like we spend a lot of time together, and how could you feel that way if I'm always
Yeah.
around, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
So I think we avoid saying certain things because we don't want it to feel like it's a reflection on that person that we're always around.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that is why.
I mean, I don't think that that's the only reason. I'm just saying maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, so we go back to ways to deepen your self-belief and like find ways to make yourself feel good in the moment, right? And so you're just kind of spitballing some ideas in case someone wants to pick up on something.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said journaling and going out on walks and just being outside.
Just like connecting with self, I think. So like not even as like strict as like, journaling, walking. Like if that doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But I also think one thing that works for me is like if I need to, I like call upon past events that like I've felt good about myself, like I've achieved something.
Okay.
So I can bring it with me in the present and be like, oh, I did this huge thing, 2 years ago, whatever, last week.
Yeah.
Like I can do what I'm doing now and it's
Okay.
going to be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Or I think about maybe in that respect, not necessarily something that like, oh, look at what I've done, but more so like, look at how that same or something, a very similar situation I've gone through and I've made it out okay. Not necessarily that it was like this triumph, but more so like it always sorted itself out, or it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And just kind of like softening into that feeling of like, well, I've done it. I can do it again, or I've done something similar. So this probably will mimic that.
Right. Yeah, totally. And then I was even thinking like, so when Tess and I were talking before this, is I was relating like self-belief to like finding a support system and being in this new part of life, and like we've moved to a new city. And so every time I have moved to a new place, like there's feelings of like loneliness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you can feel really alone too if you don't feel like you have anyone in your corner. So like I can relate on that level now, is that a lot of times I feel lonely because I don't really have, like, of course I have Tess, which is really helpful. But like other than that, I don't really know a lot of people here or have like a deep connection yet. So what I'm thinking of, like what I call upon in this time, is like trying to broaden my support system, even if it's not like real life people yet. Like I listen to podcasts based on what I'm passionate about. So I feel like I am a part of this community of like, okay, you know, this podcast host and their community, like we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And I'm learning something. This makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And even the other day, I met up with a girl that I follow on YouTube because I know she lives in Encinitas, and I love her content. I relate to her, and we had a great little coffee walk and date, and we'll have dinner with her in like a couple weeks. And so just like doing things like that too.
Yeah, a little outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think the key with that is like, yeah, the podcast and stuff is awesome because you're learning something, you feel like, okay, I relate to that, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's a very easy thing to enact because everyone, you know, if you're listening to our podcast right now, then you have the ability
access
to do that.
to it. Yeah, it's typically free.
But then in terms of you branching out and kind of meeting someone new and getting outside of your comfort zone in that way, that's awesome. And I don't think that's utilized enough by people, myself included. Like you just think, oh, well, that's like outside. Like what am I going to reach out and meet up? Like that's kind of weird. Isn't that weird these days? But no, it's not.
Yeah.
And you made a new friend and you guys had a lot in common. And I think the key to that is being really open with who you are and like what's going on in your life. Like there has been so many connections that I've made in these past few weeks of living here, just simply because I've been more honest about like my experience.
Right. Totally.
You know, like when someone was like, how was your weekend? I'm not necessarily like just dumping on them, but I wasn't like, oh, it's good. And then moving on, I was like, yeah, this was like a weird weekend for me. And I like share little bits and then they share little bits also. And I'm like, look at that.
Yeah.
Now you understand me a little bit better.
Totally.
So I think that that's cool too. A side note I want to mention here doesn't necessarily have to do with like support systems and stuff, but it was about, well, I guess it does. Someone was talking to me. We were at a party on Saturday night. I was like, was it Friday? Saturday night. And some gal was talking to me about the workplace and how she listened to a podcast recently. I don't know where it was from. Sorry, I didn't catch that part of it, so you guys couldn't listen. But she was saying that this workplace, everybody gathers together in the morning and they all take like 20 minutes to just debrief of like, my kid's home from school today, he's sick, whatever. And then she's like, yeah, my car broke down and whatever. My mom's in town visiting. I'm excited to see her after work. I'm getting a new puppy later this week. Like everyone's just sharing little bits about their life. And that gives everybody in the room context as to how this person is today. And then everybody can go based off of that. Okay, if they're not responding to my email or my text right away, I understand like maybe what other stuff is going on for them. Or if they're like in a more sad mood, I am like going to hold space for that. Or I'm going to like not say a joke today towards them, you know, like just giving people context as to what's actually going on in your life so that they can better support you. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. And even for that workplace to give them the space to do that, you know, like we actually care.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, that is a fucking awesome way to conduct your workspace.
Totally. We have to kind of like create that sort of thing just by action, you know?
And that conversation came about because I was explaining to this person about our podcast and they were like, oh my God, because they were like, what's it about? And I was like, well, it was really rooted in wellness, but that was like a tight box that we put ourselves in, and we've just broadened the horizon so much. And now we still are in health and wellness, but we are like totally tackling mental health subjects now. And just like we have a lot of fun and the conversation is really open. It's just kind of based on whatever happens in our life that week. And I was like, we start almost every episode with like a, how you doing? And she's like, that is so cool because not a lot of podcasts do. Like you guys have to find your own format. And that's why she brought up that workplace stuff. And I thought that was fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, that is awesome.
I was like, also the fact that you related us to that, like that.
I'm so happy.
Yes, we're doing something right in my eyes.
Yeah, same. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I
But yeah.
think back to like the support system thing, a lot of us don't want to hear like, oh, getting out of your comfort zone is really valuable. But it is, because I was even telling Tess that when I was on my way to like grab coffee with this person I've never met, I was just like laughing to myself in the car. And I was like, because I felt like feelings of like being nervous. It's like your first day at school or something. And I'm just like, why do I put myself through these things? And I'm like, I know it's going to be worth it. It's like you have that feeling of like, no, I need to do this. Even if I did not like hit it off with her in that friend kind of way, I would have been like, all right, well, I learned something, so who cares?
Well, think back to like every first encounter you've had with anybody who's now prominent in your life. Like it was kind of awkward. Like I can say not awkward, but like for my best friend Sydney and I, right? Like the reason we became friends is because we were all supposed to meet up one day, like me, her, and one of our other friends, and the other friend no showed. So it was just her and I, and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, we're here. Like we didn't drive at that time. We were so young, right? And we're like, well, let's just like go take advantage of this. Yeah. And so we spent the whole day together, and we've been best friends ever since, you know? And our first day, like we went, you were in our training program, right? And then we went to Whole Foods after. Yeah. And it was like not like we hadn't like, you know, you're not totally comfortable with that person yet.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
Clearly though, when I was in your class and you were teaching me Pilates, and I remember thinking like, wow, that was a great fucking class. Like I have to go up and say like, thank you for this class. And I remember you were like in the corner with like a few of your friends came to the class. So you guys were like all chatting, and I was like, I don't fucking know any of these people. So, but I just walked up and I was like, excuse me, your class was really great. And I remember thinking, I was like, why am I doing this like in the moment? You know, you feel like a fucking idiot. Like, oh, my class was so good. But that also makes a difference too. If you have a fitness instructor and you like the class, tell them. Yeah. Because sometimes we're paranoid that people did not like it.
Yeah, everyone's quiet when they leave.
Yeah, they look like fucking pissed. And I'm like, they hated it. Yeah. They hated every minute.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, so anyway, back to the support system situation and believing in yourself. I feel like those are helpful tips that are very approachable, you know, or I guess in my opinion, because they're tested.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes guys, you just need a hard reset. And what I mean by that is like, you need to sleep it off. You need to take a moment away from all the stimulus, and you need to just kind of go inwards and chill. Like sometimes if I'm in the heat of things, right? And I'm in this person's shoes of like, I don't know, like I'm getting a lot of criticism for stuff. I don't want to talk anymore. Yeah. Like, I don't think a therapy session could save me in that moment. Correct. Like, I just honestly.
You need to like go inside and reflect.
Yeah, I need peace and quiet, and I need to just kind of I don't need to be alone, but because like I like to have people around me, but I just need to chill and sleep it off and give it a little bit of time. And that helps. Granted, I don't, you know, battle with depression or anything like that. So that's from my perspective. But yeah, I think also just like sleeping it off, like trying to not be reactive to things and just like, okay, everyone has their own perspective on shit. Respect it, appreciate it. A lot of times it comes from love if someone's criticizing you, right? And sometimes it doesn't, and that's fine too. I mean, yeah, take what you want. But yeah, I think just give yourself a little space too.
Yeah. And then I also feel like it's worth saying that like sometimes you need to like accept that if you are kind of like embarking on whatever journey you're doing, like finding your passion, something, and someone in your life doesn't like it, then you just like need to accept that obviously not everyone is going to be your number one fan with your lifestyle, you know?
Yeah. And that is a hard pill to swallow.
It is. But even just like mentioning it, you know, and being aware that that is also like a belief that one could have is helpful. Just like accepting that like when you move to a new place, you're going to have times where you feel lonely, and that's okay. Like even though that emotion or like these emotions feel so uncomfortable, you can sit in them and you're going to be fine. And the good thing is that they always pass.
Yeah.
So
don't they?
Let's just revel in that.
When you're in the heat of an emotion and you just feel like, oh my God, it's never ending. Like, how is my life ever going to be normal again? How am I ever going to feel like myself? Yeah. And then the wave does pass and you're like, oh.
You're like, oh my God, I'm so happy it crashed on the shore. Like we've made it.
Yeah. I'm a little battered up right now.
Yeah.
You know?
A little bruised, but we're going to be fine. Like, thank you for this life.
Yeah.
All right, are we moving on to our last subject?
I'd love to.
Okay, so dating apps. We we don't have experience with dating apps.
No.
No, not
No.
really. Like, a little bit, but nothing
Have you ever created an
extensive.
account?
Never.
Okay, I have not. I have not either. And the reason this is coming up is because we're thinking maybe.
Yeah. Well, so the other day we were at brunch with my dad, and I don't even know how the conversation came up, but we were talking about dating apps, and Tess was like, "Well, why don't you why wouldn't you sign up for them?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, why?" And she kept asking why, and I was like,
She actually got kind
I
of annoyed
looked
with
over
me.
and I was like, "If you say why one more time, I'm gonna fucking freak out." And then
Okay, so the approach was a little off. I
Well,
understand.
it's okay. So, and the reason why I was like, well, why did that bug me as to like when she kept asking why? And I think it's because like my answer isn't better than like, I don't know why,
Okay.
Like I feel like, and so I was thinking about it more and I was like, well, I just have a huge stigma against dating apps for some reason. Like I'm very like,
Now, I have a question.
yeah,
Does your stigma have much to do with my history?
with dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that might go into it a little, like that might be part of it.
Okay. Because I
think
can't
there's
help
a
but
lot
think.
of things.
So, guys, I don't want to go into any detail here, but basically, I had a very firm stance on dating apps for a long time for great, great reason. And I think that there's a chance that I have rubbed off a little bit because I was like pretty damaged by the dating apps, you know? And so
Yeah. It
maybe,
could be. It's like
maybe.
it could be because I was also thinking about like I was relating it to like religion and how I have a huge stigma against religion, even though I know a lot of people who really benefit from like going to church every Sunday, but like my family and so many families like talk shit on it all the time. And so it gets in your head like this constant repetition of like, oh, dating apps are this or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So maybe.
Okay.
And then it's also just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of it too is like if I were to go on a dating app, I feel like I explain this to a lot of things. This is like why I don't want a corporate job too. Because I don't want to be like another player or like, I think of it as like, I don't know why this is my expression, but a cog in the machine.
Okay.
That's a really like my
You're an old
dad's
man.
probably said
Yeah,
that.
that's fine.
But like I just feel like I'm like in an assembly line doing what everyone else is doing. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand that because the reality of a dating app is I've seen everybody around me use them, right? I know what it's like.
Yeah. And also the success rate I feel like is really not good.
But it is.
Like it can be. I understand that. But these are my reasonings as to why I'm not like saying I'm never going to go on a dating app.
I'm all about it. Let's talk through them.
Yes.
But you said like you don't want to be like a cog in the assembly line.
Do
right?
a cog in the machine.
A cog in the
the
machine.
Exact thing
Cog
I
in the
said.
machine. Okay. I understand that because the reality of a dating app is your picture is up, your picture, your name, and your age is up with thousands of others, right?
Yes.
It's just 1 in 1,000 or more. There's so many more. It's based on mileage, and you pick out like your favorite pictures of yourself, and you write like something fucking
This
witty.
is making me not want to do it.
Listen, you write something witty. You're trying to like catch an eye, right? And that is not your style at all.
Right.
So I
It's
understand.
like, look at me over here.
Correct.
Oh.
Okay. I will say that that's totally valid. That's why I'm repeating all of this back to you because I get it.
Yes.
However, so many people who are just like you and have those same belief systems are using them, and they are meeting people, and they are going out on dates. And even if these people are not necessarily like their life partner, they're gaining experience. They're making new friends, if anything, or they have a funny story if it's not a new friend.
I was going to say, I was like, dude, the odds of me making a friend with a man.
No,
is
it's so slim.
Fucking slim.
It's so slim.
Sad.
I know, but I'm just saying like there are lots of pros, and I think that the pros probably outweigh the cons here.
Yeah. Well, Potentially, yes. And then I just think, like, if it's going back to our whole conversation that we just had today, is like sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone, and that's just the way it is. Like, as much as I don't want to hear that, like, if you want different, you have to do different. So you just try it. And if I fucking hate it, then I don't do it again. Like, that's just it. Like, plain and simple, hard truth.
Yeah. And I think that maybe for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard you say things that lead me to believe this, is that if you were to be on a dating app, like you just feel like, I'm probably not going to meet like my person on a dating app because it's like, I don't spend a lot of time on my phone as is. So like, why do I want to be on my phone? Right. And you want to meet someone more organically out in the world. But it doesn't mean that if you're on a dating app that you won't meet someone out in the world organically. It just means that you're heightening your chances of meeting someone.
Yeah.
Like, it's just another way to do it. But you can still have the same odds of meeting the person out in the world. It's just now you have this sector that you get to play in too.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
everybody's on them. And if I was single.
I know, but it's funny because it's like when that is used as an argument, that's not like, I'm going to do it. 'Cause like,
but
you know?
I understand because you don't want to do what everybody else is doing. And I fully accept that. But at the same time, I think it's comforting because I'm like, well, I'm not like just this like lonely person who's like looking for love out there. And I'm like one of 5 people, you know, like it's not that mindset. It's just like, yeah, this is like the new age of doing it. And you might not find anybody on there, but at least that you would have been available for something like that.
Right. So we'll see.
I don't know. Only time will tell.
We'll keep you guys updated. Whatever happens.
But I fully understand that I would have a hard time creating an account also. But I have proposed to Madison that I will help her create an account.
I think like someone at least has to like be sitting next to me so I don't feel like
I'll help you pick your picks.
Fucking lame. Like it's already like, oh my God, that like
that's just your ego. That's just ego. Just ego.
Yeah.
Just ego.
I don't know. My soul might also be like, don't fucking do that. But
okay, well then
we're
don't.
Try.
Okay.
No, we're trying.
So we're going to try now. There's the update.
Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, that's, why not?
I don't know. And you know what? There might be, I've heard you've got to eat 100 hamburgers before you eat a steak. That's not always true. But I'm just saying you might need to eat some hamburgers before you have a steak. Okay. Yeah, you might have some shitty conversations. You might get liked by some people that you don't think you're a fit with, you know, like it's going to happen. And you just like have to laugh about it and be like, okay, well, nope, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Sure. All right.
Well, guys, we love you.
Yeah. And I will say, if anyone listened to the last episode with that lame ass ad that I had to read, I did write one for Tess, but we're not going to do it today. We'll do it on the next one.
I appreciate that. We are short on time.
Yeah.
What's new?
And it's a good one. But I read it again today and I was like, oh, fuck.
Can I have it? Oh, is it on here? I want to read it right now. Is it on there?
It's on my phone.
Okay, next time. I'm ready to rumble.
Oh, yeah. I just was like, I don't know, maybe today's not the vibe. So I just like didn't put it in. But next week, it's on.
I'm looking forward to it.
So until next week, subscribe, like, do whatever, And also, like if you're watching on YouTube, when you wear a hat and you have long hair and then it's like your ear kind of sticks through on one side. Like I think this ear might be lower on my right. And so it makes like your hair goes, does that happen to you or no?
Oh yeah, Madison. It all happens to me.
Okay.
You name it, it happens.
Dude. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling great.
I feel proud of you. Good job.
Thanks. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.